Good evening, fight fans. I'm Micah Frankel. Welcome to my fight show. We are energized by our friends at Dubby. Brand new package. Got to bust that open. Be sharing that with you guys this week. Hair is done by Barber Gabe's Fades, Lobo Plaza here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, the northeast corner of Corzine Central. Hope you guys got in, took advantage of the holiday special that was today and yesterday. Also, big shout out to the barber for the first round knockout victory at APFC 21. CageMinds.com is the website. You're watching this on Cage Minds Combat Sports News because you're seeing it first on Facebook and YouTube where we're live. The rest of the social media, you can see it there on the bottom line. It's Cage Minds _CSN. We've got an X, a TikTok, a Threads, an IG, all of that good stuff. And we have a huge lineup for today. If you check it out, our social media on Instagram and Facebook. We're always going to be trying to announce who will be on the show before it happens. I'm going to get a graphic together. Everything's coming together here this week. We will be joined by Alex Solis, Jiu Jitsu Kartel. He has a huge announcement about their next event upcoming. We have El Paso media member, I think is the best term to call him, photographer, videographer. Jimmy Dukes will be joining us to talk all about what was a crazy local weekend here. He has a lot of thoughts on FightWorld 41 and the amateur card from APFC 21, which I'm sure you guys saw the highlight. Yeah, we'll talk about that, man, on this program as well. The knockout, the heavyweight of the future. We'll get to him. A huge weekend of fights. And that includes that our final guest of the evening will be Logan Paxson, who had a vicious knockout win himself at APFC 21. And Looney Austin Lewis, bare knuckle vet, former MMA amateur champion, a BKFC fighter. He boxes Legacy Boxing Promotions right here in Albuquerque, New Mexico on December 12th. So we will have Austin Lewis joining us. It's going to be a huge show. About 3 events this weekend I watched, guys, and I watched a lot of fights, but back-to-back nights live in person at FightWorld 41 and APFC 21, not to mention the UFC Qatar event that have 14 fights of its own. That was 49 fights in a short amount of time. It was an amazing 36 hours, we'll call it, of getting to embrace myself into everything that is combat sports. Can't wait to talk about it. Before Alex Solis joins us, because we got a couple minutes, I gave us the rundown a bit faster than I thought. Got to give a couple minutes too, as I say, the heavyweight of the future. Gable Steveson, 3 now as a professional, 3 first-round knockouts, and I believe I wrote it down, 2 minutes and 17 seconds. We knew coming into MMA that Gable was a freak athlete. We knew transitioning, he had loads of upper echelon competitive experience, having all of his accolades in wrestling, golden, huge accomplishments from Gable. And then there was a question about what his future would be. Did he have his desires on professional wrestling? He signed with WWE. We also saw him go in the direction of pro football in camp with the Buffalo Bills. And then everything finally came back around to combat sports where it had started. And I myself wondered, would he have the love? And it looks like he has the love and has connected with this sport. It looks like he has gladly shown up to the gym, put in the hard training sessions, and done his due diligence. 3 knockout victories, and the striking in these last two. The first one, there was the single leg, there was the ground and pound. It was what we expected of Gable Steveson. But these last two, DBX and APFC, the balance, the composure, his ability to put together strike was what I most admired a performance at Dirty Boxing. At APFC, it was calm, it was calculated, and it was devastating. Hunting out angles, assessing which way he wanted to attack, and then launching into the big overhand. And to think about that level of that just speed, Gable Steveson hit that overhand, and Kevin Hahn, his unconscious body, couldn't even transition himself, well, plummet to the mat, basically. He couldn't fall to the ground fast enough to beat the double leg attempt. Steveson was there and there down in a blink of the eye. That level change, something spectacular. The impact that near spine buster, almost like a professional wrestling move, that spine buster added to on the mat was thunderous around the ringside where we were. I started out the article, not just the results, but the article, the full article that recaps the entire 21 fight card at cageminds.com by daring to ask the question, is the hype possibly not big enough for what Gable Steveson may be able to accomplish? When you hear a conversation like, I think he could be competitive with UFC heavyweights right now, you hear a lot of gym talk like that. You hear a lot of hyperbole in that manner. But the performances that Gable has put together in a very short amount of time leads you to believe this is not hyperbole, that there is reality, that there could be actuation behind these words. We really could be looking at the maturation of the next great American heavyweight. It has been awing, that damn impressive what he's been able to do. 3 wins, 3 months, not even 3 minutes of action for Gable Steveson. We're just getting started on My Fight Show. Looks like more people are joining in. So just to remind everybody, we have a huge guest list tonight. Alex Solis, Jiu Jitsu Kartel, is going to be here with a huge announcement about Kartel Klash. We're going to have Jimmy Dukes joining us to give a huge recap about FightWorld 41. Austin Lewis, ahead of Legacy Boxing Promotions, December 12th at the Kiva Auditorium. Last week, we got to talk to his former training partner, now opponent, Quentin DeLeon. And we're going to wrap up the night with APFC 21 winner, Logan Paxton, who for moments had the most devastating one-punch knockout of the night. The man is on an absolute tear, and I think he's knocking on the door of the big show. All week, guys, we're going to be putting up clips still from backstage. We're going to have interviews with a good number of the winners from APFC 21 and a couple of them from that main card of FightWorld 41 that have not went up yet. So this week, social media, well, you guys are, I hope, hopefully having a wonderful Thanksgiving. We'll be throwing up a bunch of stuff on the social media all week long. Hopefully, getting these little clips out, a couple questions that we're able to ask those guys backstage. At the moment, it looks like Alex Solis is trying to join in. In just a second. So our first guest appears to be on tap. Alex Solis, Kartel Jiu Jitsu Kartel Klash. Looks like we do have a visual now, and our first guest tonight.
Awesome, brother. How are you guys?
Good. How you doing there?
I'm doing great, man. Blessed.
Where are you joining us from tonight?
Actually, I guess I'll be
What was that? We kind of lost you for a second.
I'm here at Sandalu BJJ at our gym.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. It's great to hear from you. You guys got the first event out of the way, the first Kartel Clash. Let's jump right into it. What was that day like?
It was very stressful just because we had some situations where guys were coming from out of state. So I wanted to make sure that everything aligned and make sure that everyone had fun. Everything worked out for everybody. So it was stressful, but it was very, very fun.
What was your feeling about the overall process of the event, getting everything started? I know that it's always up your head, and then actually trying to get that first match on the mat is so hard.
I was stressed out. Don't get me wrong, because I wanted to make sure that everyone had a good time, make sure that everything went well. Um, but yeah, just the night before, of course, I couldn't sleep, so I was just in my thoughts a lot.
And looking back at that first event, what's your initial takeaways from how it went?
To be honest, I would say it went 99% to how I wanted it to go. So I'm very happy with the results. I had a lot of great feedback from a lot of people. People are already asking me when the next event is, and I'm just motivated. It was a great turnout, great matches. A lot of people from different parts of the state, different states came through. So it was. We felt blessed that everybody was able to be a part of it.
We are joined by Alex Solis, Jiu Jitsu Kartel, trains out of Sindal, DJ. Hopefully, we're going to be able to remove him from the stage for just a second, and we'll see if we're able to add Alex back. Wanted to kind of get his thoughts on how that first event went. I think nope, he just went away. Let's see if he comes back. But I wanted to just get a couple thoughts on how that first event went. And then, like I said, I think he has an announcement, a little more details for us about the second event. Looking forward to seeing an uptick in the new year. That would be a real positive around here. If we can get Alex back in here real quick.
What's going on, brother? Sorry.
Okay, there we go.
Can you hear me?
Okay, I think I can hear you now, sir.
Okay, awesome. Sorry. Later, guys.
Okay, we had lost you there. We were talking about the first event, Kartel Clash 1.
Yes, sir.
Overall, you said it went about 99% how you thought it would.
Yes, everything went pretty much according to
What's that
plan.
1% then? What needs to improve?
I would say better DJ. Um, Possibly there was a couple of hiccups when it came to the music. But that was pretty much it. Everything else went according to plan. We were able to push 46 matches within we were scheduled to have it done by 5 p.m. We were done by 4:45. So we were 15 minutes ahead of time.
Oh, that's always nice. It actually worked out according to plan. Usually, you don't get that on the first run.
Yeah, of course. So for the next one, we're trying to shoot for 50 matches, trying to keep it in the same time.
It didn't feel like a long day. That number does feel good and solid.
Oh yeah, my back was hurting so bad. I was tired. It was and then of course we still have to clean up afterwards, you know what I mean? So that's kind of we were there for approximately 12 hours total, but it was just a great turnout.
And now you mentioned the second one already almost right away. What's the design? What's the thought process? Do we have anything on paper on stone yet?
Yes, I've already had the location booked. I have the date set. Um, we're just waiting for it to be announced. We haven't announced it to anyone yet, so today would be the first time that anyone should hear our next event date.
Do you guys have a planned release or are you ready to announce it?
I can announce it with you. I would love to announce it here with you.
Yeah, let's go. What can everybody look forward to? What date do they need to be ready?
All right, March 7th, Saturday. It's going to be Kartel Klash 2. We're going to have more awards. We're going to have a kids main event. We're going to have a teens main event. And then, of course, an adults main event. The prizes are going to be top team. Additional is going to be submission of the night, fight of the night. March 7th will be the date, 9 o'clock. First match estimated to end by 5 p.m. Um, we already have a lot of people that are showing interest that keep asking us when the next one is. So that's what we're going to do. And then in return, what we're going to do is obviously we're not going to charge any of the fighters to compete. We are going to raise money to approximately the goal is to be able to get 300 backpacks and getting ready for the summer for kids that return to school.
So we're also going to have a fundraising element to the event
Yes, everything that we do
or
goes back to
charity
the
element,
community.
excuse me.
Yeah, so everything that we do goes back to the community. Nothing goes to our pocket. Everything that we do is we try to give back in one way, shape, or form with either sponsoring kids to do tournaments, um, doing toy drives, food drives. This one we're gonna help with backpacks, and the money that's left over we're gonna try to help start saving jackets and sweaters for the winter, for veterans that need it, and for homeless people as well.
Could you repeat that last part?
Which
It glitched out one more time.
no, that's okay. So what our goal is to raise money to get backpacks and school supplies for the kids. The funds that are left over after we hit that goal is we're gonna use those funds to raise to get coats and sweaters for homeless and for veterans.
Are tickets going to be available prior to the door?
Yes, we're gonna be partnering with the company. That way, everyone can purchase their tickets online. And then we will, starting January 2nd, we're gonna submit
Oh,
on our Instagram a link. That way, people can start dropping their applications, so we can start matchmaking.
where do people need to start submitting those applications to?
So people can submit their letter of interest on our Jiu Jitsu Kartel page on Instagram, and then January 2nd, we're gonna release the link, and then people can start filling out the application, and then we're gonna start matchmaking end of January.
The pacing was to your liking. The show went 99% the way you wanted to, 15 minutes early than you expected. Are there any adjustments to the rules or any other adjustments that everyone should be aware of?
Yes. So we had, I believe, like 15 matches that went to a draw. That's not going to happen this time. What we're going to do is we're going to have a way to tie break. We're going to either go to EBI rules. So we'll release more information on that. But every match will have a winner and a loser.
You're a full-blown promoter now at this point and fully engulfed in the jiu-jitsu world. Also, charity, like you said, giving back. You have a day job. Do you feel busy yet?
Oh yeah, I'm very very busy. But it's kind of crazy because now that we finished the first event, life has slowed down tremendously. So now like it kind of just feels weird not to be doing a whole lot. So I'm excited to get back into it.
Doing more for jiu-jitsu, doing it for the community. We know that you wanted to get the community more active. March is going to be the first event. Is there a tentative number of events you're hoping to do this year?
Yes, I want to do one in March, and then do another one in June, and then from there, depending on how that goes, I may want to probably do another one probably in September. So every 3 months.
Okay, every 3 months. All right. The first one, it sounded like it got a lot of positivity. What were the reactions and the feedback that you felt was most valuable that you got?
Just that there were exciting matches. The matchmaking was great. The energy was amazing. Everything went according to plan. People weren't there all day. Um, People liked just the energy of the event. Um, it was just a great turnout. Great to see the community come together, and at the end of the day, we do this for the community. That's what we're here for.
Whether it's the amateur kickboxing, the amateur Muay Thai, amateur grappling, the professional grappling, some of these combat sports, it's few and far between how many events we actually have, how many competitions we have. So I appreciate what you're doing because especially in the grappling world, I think it's the more the better. We get to be able to have these athletes here active locally.
Of course, of course.
Big things coming. It sounds like from Jiu Jitsu Kartel. Hopefully, they're able to do it an event every 3 months. Beginning of the year, be on the lookout for the link January 2nd. If you want to be involved in the second event, we'll have more details at cageminds.com as soon as they're released. Alex, thank you for taking some time out of your night and actually stepping away from the mats for a few minutes for this.
Of course. Thank you guys. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate the support. Appreciate the love. If you guys need anything, any ideas, shoot them our way. We're here to help you guys out.
You have a good night, sir.
Later, Micah. Thank you.
First guest down, Alex Solis, doing a lot for the jiu-jitsu community here locally, trying to get some more events together. He's also deeply into charity work, sponsoring kids jiu-jitsu. And then, as you said, the backpack, as he mentioned, the backpack drive associated with the upcoming event. So a lot of great things coming from the Jiu-Jitsu Kartel. They're putting on the Kartel Clash. Again, on the website, we'll have a lot more. On the website, it was a huge weekend because after the UFC Qatar event, which believe me, we'll have some flying under the headline topics from that here a little bit later. Later that night, we had a mega card at Revel with FightWorld 41. And I met a man who was running around with the camera, who's been putting in a ton of work here in the Southwest combat sports scene. We're going to now work Jimmy Dukes. As soon as there it is.
How are you?
Doing all right, battling the internet right now. Hey, I got you in. Cool.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you having me
How
on.
are you doing tonight?
Thank you for the little intro. Good, bro. How are you?
Doing all right. Trying to get some rest and catch up. It was a busy weekend.
Yeah.
That might have been one of the wilder fight cards I've seen in a while that we were at.
The FightWorld, yeah, like what was it? The first three were like finishes, like within the first round, right?
We had a 19-second knockout and then like a 33-second knockout. Oh, okay. 19 seconds, 21 seconds, 45 seconds.
First minute. Dang. Three off the bat. That was it happened so fast too. You know what I mean? Got to give it up to the matchmaking, making exciting to start off the whole event, right?
You got to give it up to them. Those amateurs, there's something about the invigoration, there's a different kind of enthusiasm about the amateurs and those first time getting to get in the cage, and they kind of just let loose.
Yeah, I know. The first match, one guy out here from El Paso, Gabriel Sejas, that was his debut, and was able to kind of weather that quick little storm. I think William Wallace had, if I'm not mistaken, and was able to catch that leg kick, if I remember. Then dropped him, was able to get on top and finish in a spectacular fashion for sure to start off the whole card at FightWorld 41.
And quickly after that, then you had Juan Sellers. He had a right hook, a couple ground pound strikes. He gets a knockout. And Peyton Matherin, I don't know if we'll ever see that knee knockout, having his opponent basically horizontal in the air.
Yeah,
if we'll ever see that duplicated again.
Yeah, he had him against the cage, and he was off to the side. And as he was getting up, man, he had that knee already lined up, man. And if I'm not mistaken, P Money, took advantage of the opportunity and finished the fight there as well.
I know that an El Paso guy. Well, what brought you into this combat sports world?
Man, I was I've trained on and off jiu-jitsu, and then I'm a content creator. I came from the whole video game world, and I had the podcast going and was just training jiu-jitsu at my gym. Shout out to Grind Underground Jiu-Jitsu Club here in El Paso, and I wanted just to expand my content creation. I just started practicing taking pictures at the gym and doing videos. And I already kind of knew some people from the community down here as far as the fight game. And I was able to get into some promotions and just be there with the camera. And I just kind of picked it up from there, man. I enjoyed just covering the sport and, giving guys some cool ass pictures and videos. I know that they bust their butt, to be out there. So for me to capture it with video or photos for them to share with the world and, cover the sport in the Southwest, I really enjoy it, man. So it's been awesome that everybody's so welcoming everywhere I go, or everywhere I can get into. So shout out to all the coaches, gyms, and promoters and fellow people like you in the media who are so welcoming every time that I'm at an event.
So how long has it been that you've been actively pursuing media side of the combat sports game? Because it sounds like with the jiu-jitsu, you've been around the gyms and the scene for a while.
Yeah. So, man, I'm actually at about a year and a half now. Yeah. About a year and a half now. Last August of 24, I covered my first amateur event Didn't know what I was doing. I still don't know what I'm doing now, but I'm just out there hanging out and, supporting these girls and guys out there that, especially in the amateurs, how you were saying, man, like a lot of these folks out there, there's no money in this sport. They're willingly out there wanting to go out there and test themselves, challenge themselves, and, make a career out of this. So I just love being able to cover it, because I feel like with my content creation background, I feel like I can offer the community something, just to give these guys a small platform that I have with interviews or photos or whatever. And it's just awesome to be able to do it. And, just being everybody's so hospitable and welcoming, or anytime I work with folks, it's awesome. So very fortunate.
In a very similar story, I started because I just didn't feel like there was enough people talking about MMA. I'm watching the UFC and it wasn't on ESPN a lot at that point. And I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. Why are more people not talking about it? And I was reading a Fighters Only magazine where they're like, if you want to cover it, get out and cover it. Just start covering the sport. YouTube led to journalism, that's led to radio and back to podcasting and so much more. But it's all just about, this stuff is really awesome.
Yeah, man. And I had saw you at FightWorld 40, but I didn't really get to talk to you. And I saw you, that I let you know ahead of time, like, hey man, I would like to meet you, because I respect what you do, man. I know you cover a lot of all the different combat sports, not just MMA. And I respect people in the media that do it the right way, and you are doing it the right way, man. So I respect that, and I draw inspiration from fighters and people like you that who want to be here for the right type of reasons.
Oh, appreciate that. Appreciate that. Love to see the content that you're putting together and how you're progressing. Getting back to the fight card, I think that Lorenzo Chavez and Jario, I might be wrong, I'm gonna have to ask him when I see him. Jario Brajas, the split decision fight, that was fight of the night. And that was a very high level fight between two debuters. I was shocked that it was their first ones.
Yeah, they look pretty composed. If I'm not mistaken, is Heidel is his name. And but yeah, you couldn't tell that was an amateur fight, man, because we're starting to see now, Michael. What do you think, that there's a lot of guys that have a lot of experience before they get in the cage? So when you see a guy that's 0-0, you really don't know what they're gonna bring. Is it this guy who's been training for a couple months, or is this just like a culmination of years of doing other stuff to finally be like, all right, let me get in there? And I think that was a perfect example of two guys that have been training for some time with some good people, and you could just see that they were showcasing all their skills out there for sure.
Right, because Barrios, stiff jab, really incredible calf kicks for somebody with that little of experience. And Chavez, his stance switches and his defensive awareness, not to mention really being up in the air, the knockdown late in the third round, I thought is what sealed the fight in his favor. Going after it in that manner, that showed a lot of instincts that you don't see out of guys in that first fight scenario.
Yeah, I've seen that sometimes, and no offense to any guys or girls, but sometimes you could just see how guys have that, or girls have that little killer instinct to want to try to finish it. And it was, from what I remember, and I'm taking pictures and I'm recording, so I don't remember everything. I always look back at the video, but it was going back and forth. Like, I was looking at somebody like, I think it could go either way. It could go either way, but you said it with that knockdown at the end, I think sealed that round for him to make it easier for the judges to pick a winner.
Oh no, definitely was going to be a lot harder if that moment didn't happen. It was also kind of those first fight jitters, I think, is a bit of what we saw in the ladies fight. When you saw Amber versus Josie, you saw Amber, I think, very tentative and almost tense until she scored the knockdown in the last second of the first round. And then she was just a different athlete almost in the second and third rounds. You could just see the confidence that she was like, I can do this now. I know it.
Yeah, I was kind of looking her up a little bit. She has a Muay Thai background, so she's been fighting. You know, this was her first, I guess, MMA fight. So I saw that how you were saying as she got her rhythm, you know, she was putting things together. But shout out to Josie, man. She is tough. I mean, she took everything in the kitchen sink and was getting up and still going forward. And, you know, I respect that because, you know, that could have been an easy out for her to be like, hey, I got knocked down. I'm getting beat up. But to the very end, I heard her in the background, like in the back, she was like, I didn't even know that 3 rounds went by. Like she was, you know, she was busting her butt and made that very exciting for a ladies fight. You know, we don't really get that many in the area, but man, those girls really put it out there.
You and I both know Freddie Sandoval. I'm sure he ran up to you and said the same thing that he said to me. She's a beast. She's a beast. When she got knocked down at the end of the first round, you could see the eyes and they were right on the ref. And the ref told her, if you can stand up, and she got right up and kind of felt that moment. If he wasn't making the judgment call because it was a knockdown to stop it in the amateur fight, that proved that beast that Freddie said was in her, because there was no quit.
Yeah, there's like, I mean, and I'm sure you've seen millions of fights, and you know, I'm starting to get to be able to judge character and stuff, but some people just have that in them to where like, I don't care if I'm getting my butt kicked. I'm still getting up. I'm trying to advance. I'm defending, you know, and, you know, not looking for a way out to where they can say, hey, you know, I'm already losing this fight. You know, might as well just call it quits. You know, a lot of people have that little grit in them, and you can't teach that, right?
You can't teach the grit. Bring that up also with Alexis Balon, because there was someone that knew Brad Tarpley sitting right behind me. And when Tarpley got the armbar in the first round, I could clearly hear he's got a grappling background. That's checkmate. And to my surprise, he survived and made it to the next round. So that showed Balon had that heart, even though he ended up getting succumbed to a submission. The heart to get out of what looked like a fully extended armbar was something.
Yeah, and that was if I'm not mistaken, he had a mustache, shaved head, right? Yeah, and he fought Sergio last at FightWorld 40. You know what I mean? So he already had a tough test against Sergio. For him to come back, get in the ring, and then get it done, it was pretty cool, you know. And shout out to Sergio. As Turpley was walking up to go back, I saw Sergio come up and say what's up to him on the side. So I thought that was kind of cool, because I know that Turpley, if I'm not mistaken, took that fight last minute to fight Sergio at Fight World 40. So for him to get a full camp and to go in there to display his skills and get a win was pretty amazing to watch.
Also, Isaiah Garcia, the 190-pound catchweight bout, or 195-pound catchweight bout. Mikey Williams was a statuesque figure at 195.
Oh, I know.
That man
He looked like a G.I. Joe.
huge.
He looked like a G.I. Joe, bro. I was just like, holy smokes. But Isaiah Garcia, right? He was in there. He made it tough for him. He was grappling. He was he was taking him down. He wasn't giving him space. You know, he was advancing. I think that was the only way, because when they were at the stand-up, you can see how he was trying to get those strikes in, but Isaiah did not want any of that and made sure he was punishing him once he got to the floor, right?
I saw the judges' scorecards, because in-house, they only read unanimous decision, split decision. I ran around. They let me look at it. The right hand that Williams landed in the first round, 2 judges off of damage gave him that first round. So we're talking about Garcia really had to embrace the grind and find that path to victory. And that just shows a load of grit of a guy that I saw afterwards. His team is convincing him, this is why you got to be a welterweight.
Yeah. I mean, guys have issues and girls have issues with weight, and not everybody fights at their prime weight sometimes, but that's just a perfect example how, a lot of guys are like, hey, if you just move down a weight class, you'd probably be better off. So, but at the time, he took the fight and, he felt comfortable enough to go in there, and still got the win, right? But probably moving forward is probably going to be a different division, right?
Possibly a different division. I think that's what he's going to look to do. Possibly maybe intensify that strength and condition a little bit. A guy that was dropping down in weight was Dion Valdez. This was the first time we saw him at 155 after the emotional submission win. I'm sitting next to the matchmaker. He's running over there. I want the title fight. I want the title fight. John Judy told him a couple more. It was your debut in the weight class. I had talked to him last week here on this show. He has endless enthusiasm for the sport.
I know. I've gotten to know him. I saw him at FightWorld 40. You know, he got that finish. And I was joking with him after. I was like, when he was kind of hitting his chest, you know, and he was doing all that. I was like, hey, for this next one, if you finish, are you gonna do it again? He's yeah, if I win, I'm gonna do it again. But he's gradually coming down in weight, and he looks good, man. Hey, I guess he told me he used to be a really big dude and just changed his diet and just slowly the weight is shedding. And I told him, I was like, hey, you want to go down one more? He's like, yeah, I'll probably go down one more weight class, but he's on his way because for his stature and his body frame, I think the 145 would probably be really good for him.
He said he wasn't that dehydrated, and I think officially weighed in around 154. So he came in under lightweight. It was his first time there, and I want to say maybe 80 to 100 pounds is what he had told me the weight loss has been overall. So it's an incredible transition what MMA has been able to do for him. A lot of promise and a lot of determination. If there's a fight that you want to talk about that I'm missing, let me know.
I mean, the championship fight, you know what I mean? That was good. That was a good test for John. I felt that Marvin was pushing the pace, you know what I mean? And they were getting after it. And that third round, that's when it seemed like the battle of attrition started coming into play. And John Wick was able to get that takedown and then get to that choke, which eventually ended the fight. So it was a great title fight for both of them.
Sandoval stuck him with some of those knees on the cage. He had him hurt, jumped on the choke, and credit the survival skills of Moreno can never be underestimated. We saw that against Romero in the first title fight where he had to play a lot of defense and overcome some awkward grappling. He does it again here. And then talk about seizing the moment. He saw the littlest bit of daylight and grabbed it and got that submission in definitely a fight where he was down those first two rounds.
Yeah, because that's what happened in his last fight when he got that title. And no, it went 5 rounds. It was a lot of grappling exchanges. And I had talked to him a little bit after and in between, but he's like, oh, yeah, we're going to work on that. You know, we're going to work on that. And he knows. A lot of these guys know, like, once you start moving up in these weight classes, you're going to meet guys that are really good grapplers. And if you cannot get up, you're going to probably lose the fight just because of a control and damage. So he was expecting, you know, a dogfight because he had said, I had talked to him in the back. He's like, you know, my last fight, I had a lot to give my gas tank wise. And he's like, I wasn't sure for a 5-round fight how it was going to go. He's all this time. He's like, I'm going to be pushing that pedal. And in that third round, I was looking at him. I was like, oh, he is not tired. I think Sandoval's slowing down a little bit, and that's what we saw.
Talk about El Paso fight scene turning out some incredible fighters, some incredible gyms right now. That flies a lot.
You're breaking up, brother. I can't hear you.
Big upset. You're putting there a streak were 4 in a row, and it looked like this one, in my opinion, was going to possibly put him a FightWorld title.
I didn't hear a single thing you said, Mike. I am sorry. You blanked out for like the last 30 seconds. I didn't hear a single thing you said.
Okay, first thing, Rodzilla team, they're underrated. Got to give them some respect. Alejandro Cuero, crazy upset. Before that fight, I was thinking with the 4-fight win streak, Richard was going to be in line, an AFL, a CFC, a FightWorld title possibly if he had got a win here. And instead, That was a huge upset.
Yeah, so I've known Jennings. I saw him fight at the Southwest Brawl a couple months ago. He looked good. And Alejandro, he fought at CFC main event. He took a fight last minute to fight a hometown favorite. He got finished in the first round, and I think he was trying to make a statement. So when him and Jennings were going at it, I didn't know that that matchup was lined up. And then I was like, oh, smokes, this is pretty good. And Alejandro got that spinning back fist, right? It was like a spinning back fist. It was kind of like a flash knockout, and it happened so fast. But yeah, I mean, for him to come up here and take on Jennings after having that streak, it was pretty awesome to see for sure.
That was a spectacular finish. Alejandro, and I talked to him, he wasn't sure if it was the elbow, the forearm. He didn't think it was his actual fist, but somewhere on the arm to the elbow landed, and Richard was like, yep, I got caught. That takes us to the main event, and Troy Green got held against the fence, got battered with knees, nearly face planted, and then somehow, I don't know how he survived the Anaconda choke. That's one of James's moves. He hits it on a lot of people and comes back to get that spectacular TKO off a hailstorm of right hands. What is that second and third round looking like from your perspective as a photographer trying to capture the moments?
Man, James was looking good. I've known of him. That was the first time I saw him fight, and he was looking good, man. And who was it? Troy. He was getting beat down those first two rounds, and then I was recording, and then I looked down and I'm like, oh, this is 5 minutes. Oh, this is a pro fight. And then I started seeing the tide change in that second round where James looked like he was slowing down a little bit. And Troy was like, all right, I'm tired of being on the floor. Let me get up. And it just seemed like it started swaying. The momentum started swaying the other way. And Troy was able to go in there and get the job done towards that end of that round. And it just seemed like James was gassed. He didn't complain or anything like that. It was an awesome fight to see because I've heard so much about James, and it was cool to see him fight. I'm sure he'll be back and, doing more things. But yeah, for Troy to come back and get that win, it was pretty amazing to see. I always give credit to everybody, but especially when we were just saying, when you're losing the fight, and you could look for a way out and you don't, and you have that grit just to come back. It's amazing to see, man, because it's you could see it happening, and I was watching it happening. I didn't know he was going to end up winning, but I saw the tide starting to change for sure.
You could see the tide starting to change. I talked to members of his team afterwards, and they agreed it was a good stoppage. At first, when it first happened, because his knee was coming up as Joe was jumping in, I was shocked by it, and there was a couple people around me that went, oh. But once we saw the replay that was in slow motion, and then you kind of really get to see the impact of what was happening when those rights were landing, you're like, oh, okay, we're good good on the replay.
Yeah. We're always quick to criticize, right? As a casual fan, and I'm sitting here and I'm watching it, and then you watch the replay, and then you're like, okay, I'll just be quiet now.
Sometimes that one was definitely it. I was a crazy fight world. The comebacks, the title fight, wild knockouts in the first round. Definitely one of the better local shows that we've had in a while.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. Shout out to John Judy. He was when I went up there for FightWorld 40, he was like, I normally don't let people in, but he was so welcoming because he's seen me work at other events. And I saw him down here in El Paso at CFC, and I was like, hey, I want to come up to FightWorld 41. And he's like, what's stopping you? I was like, all right, cool. So I made time to make sure to go up there because, there was some El Paso guys fighting, but I'm trying to do my best just to get to know more and more fighters from out of town and try to get to these events. As long as I can get in the door, I do my best to try to cover the sport the best I can. There's so many great fighters that are under the radar. And I feel like just us talking about these events really helps them out in the promotions and everything. I feel like everybody wins for sure.
The more eyes, the better. And really, we talk about it right now at this stage, they're doing it for free, but the damage still counts. So the media, the attention, it still matters. Start cultivating the fan base right now. You know, I'm a huge Deadpool fan. I think I'm jealous of how much Deadpool stuff you have.
Oh man, I'm such a nerd, bro. I got look at this, even my hard drive right here that I got a Deadpool. I got a bunch of stuff up here, man. I've been fortunate that people give me stuff all the time when they see Deadpool stuff. Yeah, thank you, brother.
Just noticing all that. I'm like, I got a Deadpool mask. I got a ton of shirts, my lanyard. I'll show you next time I see you.
Yeah. Did we just become best friends or what?
Hey, you know,
Hell
okay,
yeah.
so fast forwarding real quick to APFC, the funniest moment I have ever seen backstage at a fight happen, and I got to share that with everybody that's going to see this. Jalen Fuller wins, James Pleasant wins. They see each other backstage with their title belts. It's like, hey, let's take a photo together. And someone says, hey, you two look like brothers. And these two bust out the Wayans Brothers TV theme and high five at the end. And there is a photo.
Yes, that's cool. They acknowledge it. Hey, is everybody seeing this? Yeah, let's bend into it a little bit and make fun of it, right? Have fun with it.
So you weren't able to be there at APFC 21, but you said you were an interesting observer due to some teammates. Well, I still got a couple minutes before Austin Lewis joins. Who were the guys that you were watching on that card? Because I'm guessing one of them was Isaiah Solita, and I thought that was a heck of a back and forth that him and Ezekiel Romero had. I thought a couple of those teep kicks, keeping Solita off, might have made the difference in the rounds.
Yeah, it was going back and forth. You know, Solaita has he's fought he's 4-7 now. You know what I mean? He has a lot of fights. He's only 19 years old. You know, we started calling him Anytime, Anywhere. And he lives up to that. You know, he's a young kid trying to get that experience. And it was, you know, shout out to Ezekiel. He looked great. You know, I know he had fought at FightWorld 40, if I'm not mistaken. And, you know, for him to come back, get that win against a big opponent as far as stature, you know, I mean, that was a good fight to watch for sure. Even though I went to the decisions, how you were saying, I think the teep kicks and, you know, keeping him at distance as best he could was the factor for sure for that win.
Chris Otero Talent, he gets a submission in the third round. That fight was a grind for quite a while.
Yeah, and then that was his debut. Yeah, that was his debut too. Yeah, Alexis is one of the guys that that was an old teammate of mine from Jiu Jitsu, but I've such a calm guy. I just knew, like, if it goes to the floor, it's going to be very interesting. You know, he's a high level grappler. He goes to ADDC trials all the time. Heavy grappler, but he could throw punches and kicks. But once he got to the floor, you know, he got those hooks in. We're just tagging him a couple times, and the ref had to step in. So for him to get that fight, 3-0 now in his amateur career, for sure, Alexis Ortiz.
And man, another guy, Composure, he seemed like he was just taking a walk in the park, went out there, was like, huh, cool. Yeah, got that done. That was fun.
Yeah, he just really quite soft-spoken guy. One of the nicest guys. You know, a lot of girls and guys are awesome. You know what I mean? But he is a true mixed martial artist. You know what I mean? He embodies that just humbleness, just trying to get better. You know what I mean? Carries himself well. You know, he leads from the front from his gym, independent grappling. And, you know, he teaches a lot of great students, and he's out there, you know, training and fighting as well. So it's always awesome to see people like that, you know, get those wins, because I know how hard they work.
Mike Sell finds himself on his back early after a kick, but that was cool because he wraps up an arm bar. That was quite some transitions he had on the ground.
Yeah, and Mike Sell, that's not the first time he's done that. He actually did that to Nico Dilasal at CFC. Nico was on top of him, hammering him. Mike grabbed that arm in the same fashion. As I was watching it happen, I was like, oh my goodness. it was Vince Vega out of Punishers, out of Silver City. He got his arm caught and he just kept punching instead of trying to get that arm out. And Mike Cell got it done. I even messaged him after. I was like, man, you caught people slipping again, man. So to credit to Mike, you know what I mean? He was on his back taking some damage, but hey, mixed martial arts, right, Micah?
Definitely. That was the same thing where another heated almost fight of the night between Baca and Uriarte. That one, I thought it came down to the damage that Juan was able to land. I told Frankie after the fight, he's like, how close was? I said, man, you get the takedown a little earlier in the third and you're able to do something with it. Maybe it goes your way, but he had the damage.
Yeah, and Juan did fight at FightWorld 40. That was his debut, and he was getting held down a lot. And he's a stand-up guy, so he knew he had to work on that defense and stuff. And Frankie, from what I heard from the broadcaster, like he was a stand-up guy, so I was like, oh, cool, we're gonna watch a kickboxing fight. Nope, you know what I mean? Straight for the takedown, was damaging Juan. You know what I mean? I felt that he was doing enough to win, but like how you were saying that Juan be able to get up and get some damage in, I felt like that was the how he squeaked by, you know what I mean? Because I was even surprised that he won. You know, nothing against Juan. Juan's one of the homies here in El Paso, but I was like, it's either gonna be a draw or Baca's gonna win. And sure enough, they gave it to Juan. I was like, okay, that's why I'm not a judge. You know what I mean? That's why I'm not a judge.
That was a close one. Frankie, from what I've been told, was a wrestler, and then we've seen him now at Nowhere to Run here locally 4 or 5 times do kickboxing. So became a kickboxer, roots in wrestling as he's trying to become a mixed martial artist. His teammate, Elijah Lucero, that next fight went from literally, it looked like it was the bull and the matador to being able to crumble his opponent, and then the vicious ground and pound to where, unfortunately, Eric just couldn't get up and get to the stool after the round. That was some kind of turn of events from Lucero.
Yeah, Artiaga, man, out of Punishers in Silver City as well. He likes to say, what is that? He causes chaos, and he was straight just winging him. He was winging him at Elijah, and he caught him a couple times. And then toward the end of the round, I don't know if you remember, like it was the bell had gone off and he got like one more elbow in, and it's not Elijah's job to stop. He keeps going until the ref goes. And then I thought Eric was gonna get up, and he kind of looked, and they were waiting, and nobody knew what was going on, and then ultimately couldn't get up. But yeah, shout out to Eric, man. He did exactly what he was gonna do. He's one of those guys like die by the shield, live by the shield type of guy. But shout out to Elijah for him to get that win, and now he moves up to 2-0, if I'm not mistaken, according here to Tapology.
We're almost out of time, so I'm going to jump ahead real quick and bring up, there was an influencer on the card, Winged C. People have talked about him from Street Beefs, and it's not like he's unbeaten, but right here, his theatrics and some unorthodox defense, it led to getting clubbed and subbed, and that was something.
Yeah, credit to him. He might just be an influencer, but that guy could fight, regardless of what he's doing or not, he could fight. But he did get caught there, and his opponent was able to go in there and get that finish toward the end. I heard that people were saying that he drops his hands, that head kick is coming, and sure enough, it's very interesting to see when coaches yell out that kind of stuff, and then the fighter actually listens and it happens. It was pretty amazing to watch, and for him to get that win against such somebody with a huge platform, you know what I mean? That and that goes back to what we're saying, like these wins help out these people, and it helps their brand and their career. So a win like that off of somebody with such a huge following is just going to spring him forward a little bit more than before.
Jimmy, It was great getting to talk to you tonight. Thank you for taking some time out to help me go through a lot of the amateur action from APFC 21, all the review from FightWorld 41. Where can people keep up with what you're doing?
You can follow me on Instagram, Jimmy Dukes Combat. I'm covering the sport as a videographer, photographer, content creator, just a little bit of everything. So you want to check me out on there. YouTube, Jimmy Dukes Rodriguez. If you want to check me out, I have all my type of content on there. But Mike, I appreciate you, man, having me on. I just want to shout out one more fight, two more fights real quick. Devin Pepin and Elijah Quinn at APFC 21. Two dogs. I like both of them. They went at it back and forth. Devin had that head kick, and Elijah went down and got up and fought the rest of the fight. So shout out to him. Gabe Bencomo, a lot of people were counting him out for him to get that missile right and to end that fight with the flash knockout. Shout out to Gabe for that win, man. I just love seeing guys that work and put it all on the line. You know what I mean? Like, I'm one of those guys that I root for everybody from afar. And it was an amazing to see that guy get his win after, taking 2 losses. But thank you, Micah, for being so welcoming, man. Hopefully we could do this again if it makes sense, man. And I appreciate you, and I'll keep up with you, brother.
We'll talk to you soon. That was Jimmy Dukes. Thank you for joining us on My Fight Show. That was Jimmy Dukes. We got him out of here because we got Austin Lewis coming in right away from one interview right to the next. Let's get to the boxer, the BKFC vet, the MMA vet. If there's a fight sport outside of power slap so far, I think he's done it.
I don't think I'd do power slap though, for sure.
Yeah, but you've done everything else, right?
Yeah, the next one I want to try to do dirty boxing too. It's pretty interesting.
Does that look fun from your perspective? Marrying the ability to have the 4-ounce gloves on, do a little bit of the spinning, maybe the Superman punches, also with the boxing?
I dig the elbow part of the boxing. I think that would be sick to be able to just be.
You dig the elbow part?
Yeah, so you don't, instead of throwing like the hooks in tight, I'd just rather throw elbows and try to knock you out.
Yeah. So like ever since whole fight last week.
Your Muay Thai game has always been one of the attributes in your MMA game that I like that you utilize the best.
Yeah, and honestly, I think after this fight, I want to try to get a Thai fight after that. And I'm training here at Kingdom Muay Thai, so it makes total sense. Eventually, it would be sick to get a Thai fight on the same card as my sister, so that's the next goal.
How many goals on the combat sports bucket list that you have you already proudly been able to check off?
Quite a few. I feel like my biggest one was competing in bare knuckle, and I've done that multiple times. And not only have I competed in bare knuckle, but I've fought against the best in the world. So it's pretty dope, in my opinion.
The foray into boxing, is this a complete return to boxing? Is just an opportunity away from bare knuckle at this point right now? Like, where's the career focus is lining up?
Honestly, I didn't even plan on cutting weight to go down back this low. But the opponent that I got offered, this fight has been supposed to happen for years. So this is my last fight going down to 118. After I fought Chris Garcia, I actually moved up to 135 in that fight. But what I learned in that fight is not to walk into fights at weight. So my goal after this is to bulk up 10 to 15 pounds so I can actually cut to 125. And whether it be boxing, Muay Thai, or bare knuckle, I want to make a run for a belt at 122, 125. 118 is too small.
118. That took me by surprise. How are you feeling? How are you doing right now with decreasing the weight to a manageable point for that fight here in about 17 days?
So I started the weight cut at 135. which I think my opponent's coaches think that it's going to be a hard weight cut, honestly. Because my last time I went to 115, I missed weight and gave myself a kidney infection and passed out. So I didn't really want to go down that low again. But I got the right team behind me now, and I got like my nutrition on point. And honestly, right now I'm only a couple pounds out, so the weight's on point. I'm feeling strong, and right now I feel like I'm in the best shape I've been in since I fought for my belt in 2018.
It's the legacy continues too. The Kiva Auditorium on December 12th. 3 pounds has to make a difference. 118 has to be at least better for you than 115, I'm guessing.
For sure. So I've already made. I did a test cut at the beginning of this camp, and I made 118 already. Um, just to see if I could do it. Because last time I freaking was cutting, my body shut down at 119 and it just quit sweating. So 119 was the lowest I got last time. And I sat in the sauna for 2 hours trying to still cut at 119, and my body was just not having it. Um, so that's why I did a test cut, and everything's working out. Cherry got, like I said, I changed my diet. I got my sister and Joe back in my corner, so like they got me on point and freaking back to my freaking my dedication and my just staying persistent for the same thing every day.
The fight is going to be against Quentin DeLeon back like 2017, 2018, 2016, somewhere around that timeline. I believe it was. You two were same circles. You two would spar together. Am I around the right time?
Yeah, I was 20. It was actually my training camp when I fought for my belt in 2018. It was like around this time of the year, 2018. So it's been a while.
When did it become that you two were talking about being competitive? Because when I talked to Quentin, he'd been stuck around time he had fought for Lasso was around the time that the talk had first happened.
That's yeah. So the lion, I got offered that lion fights fight on like 3 days notice, and I said yeah, because obviously everybody knows me that I'm a fighter and I'm down to fight anybody. So like it doesn't matter if we're friends or not. It's a business. Like so I was gonna be down to fight him because his opponent pulled out, and then they just were not down because we've sparred obviously. Um, and then honestly, when Matt Griego and his dad had the card here in Albuquerque when he fought Jose Villapando, I was supposed to fight him that night. I agreed to that fight, and they turned it down. And he ended up fighting that Jose Villapando dude. And then that's why I was like, all right, let's fight him. So I was supposed to fight him last year, actually, last November. And we made weight, stepped on the scale, and dude didn't show up fight night. I got told after I got my hands wrapped and gloved up that he did a no call, no show. And he's still on the internet talking crazy. But it's like if you don't show up to a fight, you can't really, shouldn't have anything to say.
At what point then did the conversation reignite about wanting to fight Quentin? This had just been something, it sounds like, in your mind for a while. When he said he was turning pro, you were looking at him?
I've been looking at him since even the amateur days, like back in 2019, like since that Lions fight, because that striked up a whole thing back in the day, and then that got squashed, and then like now it's actually coming to fruition. So it's actually pretty dope because we've been supposed to have this fight like 8 or 9 times. Like I've been offered this fight that many times, and it's not happened. Now it's actually gonna happen. So that's awesome.
What's it like now for you this training camp? Normally bare knuckle. What's the difference? And I'm pretty sure there's going to be a few of them going from the 5-minute rounds to how many rounds are you guys scheduled for?
We got 4 3-minute rounds. So the difference to me is I get to actually sit, like, not really sit back, because everybody who knows me and watches me fight, I don't sit back at all and pick my shots. I get in and fight, but I get to be smarter and I can move my head and I don't got to just get my knuckles to their chin right away, because bare knuckles crazy. And I feel like it's hard to just sit back and box. Like, you got to put your knuckles on their chin and get to the point and make a statement early on in the fight. If not, they're going to make a statement on you. So, yeah, bare knuckles is just a different ball game. And boxing, I feel like you can use a better skill set. I like the bare knuckle part because you get to use more of like the MMA, like not necessarily brawler, but like the clinch style set. But boxing, you actually get to have to use your ring IQ. And I genuinely think I have a really good ring IQ.
You've now made that walk into the BKFC ring quite a few times. How does that experience then add to that ring IQ?
I feel like it takes the nerves off a lot because you're fighting in front of the entire world, not just your hometown. Um, but then again, and when you're fighting in your hometown, I feel like you got way more pressure because then you got everybody watching you. I typically like to fight out of state because you have zero pressure. You just have your people back home watching. Um, but I just feel like it just kind of takes the nerves off a little bit, makes it just where I can kind of not kind of relax because I've always been like a more of a nervous fighter, but not. I've learned to kind of just taper down and just kind of stay relaxed because bare knuckles the craziest thing you can get into. So what's there to be scared of?
You've done that craziness, so you have the experience with being in this hailstorm, but now you have this other kind of emotional turmoil brought back up from years of speculation and will this fight, won't this fight happen? Is there an emotional aspect or edge to this fight?
I would say to a point, but I'm a professional and you got to keep the emotions out of it. So my biggest thing for this fight is I got to stay patient and create my own openings. Um, and that's my key to victory is patience because I can't. If I go in fighting emotional, I'm gonna leave my chin wide open and I'll get caught with something stupid. So patience is the key to victory here.
I wonder how much is activity going to be a key also because Quentin returning, it's been 2 years since the successful pro debut against Villapondo for him. And you've had quite a few boxing bare knuckle experiences in that time. How much do you think your activity will be a benefit for you, as we know, constantly in the gym?
I'm not really gonna sit there and discredit him for being out or anything like that because I genuinely think it's gonna be a tough fight no matter what. Um, but I do think there will be a little bit of ring rust because everybody gets ring rust when you're not in there for a while. I've had it because I was there for a while. I didn't fight for like 2 or 3 years. Um, so it does exist. So that might be a factor. But who knows? I'm gonna be ready for anything.
Are you expecting the same guy that you saw him be when he fought Villapondo, or are you just imagining to continue to fight the best fighter that you can possibly go against?
I'm trying to just fight against the best fighters that I can get lined up against, and Quentin is undefeated. Makes sense. I'd rather fight undefeated fighters or people with better records because honestly, if you look up my record shows a real record. Every single person that I have on my record is a bad motherfucker. If you go look at my pro debut in boxing, the dude I just or the dude I made my pro debut against just fought last week and won a WBO world title. So, like, I'd rather take these tough fights than just these easy fights and walk through fights that most people take.
You've always been willing to do that. You've had this jumping into the fire kind of mentality. Where does that come from?
Honestly, the old school fit, the Broadway and Lomas fit, that's freaking brought up some killers, man. Like, I love that place. If it wasn't for that place, I would not be the fighter that I am today. Because it definitely has taught me how to be a dog. I started training there when I was 10 years old, so got that dog in me from Fit and HB.
You've had that dog in you. It's taken you a lot of places. What do you still, you mentioned the Muay Thai fight, but what is there on that bucket list of fight activities that is still biggest to you?
I think the biggest thing I want to do next is capture WBC Muay Thai title. That'd be dope. And I think I could do it because in Muay Thai, I feel like that's my best discipline. So, like I said, after this fight, I'm going to start training more Muay Thai again and get back into it and make a run for a belt.
At the beginning of the interview, you alluded to the focus. And we know you as a guy up early, many hours of commuting, you grind at work, you still make it to the gym. What does that mean that you needed to have a almost resolved amount of focus?
It means the world to me because I remember back in the day, people used to always tell me that I couldn't or that you wouldn't be able to do the things that I'm doing at work and then still be able to go train and do these things like that. You'd either have to figure out one or the other. You can't do both. I've literally been told that since I was a little kid. And 3 years ago, I made the choice of, like, right after Malia, dedicating my life to being a blue collar boy. And honestly, whenever she first passed away, I was gonna just be done with fighting and just straight work. And then now I've got myself back to where I'm full on 100% in fighting and full on 100% blue collar. And I just want to show, like, the kids around the world that with hard work you can achieve your dreams.
What do you think it looks like? What does it take? How do you get your hand raised December 12th?
I'm training for a 4-round fight because I'll be ready for anything, like I said, but I'm planning to go in there and getting a finish. I've been training hard and I've made a lot of changes since I just fought Chris. So you guys will see.
It's Austin Lewis, BKFC vet, boxing, soon to transition over to Muay Thai, blue collar, hardworking, hard hitting. And I thank you for the time tonight.
Thanks, sir.
Going to be a huge card. The legacy continues. Number 2, Abraham Perez is in the main event December 12th. Josh Pitbull Torres back in the ring. Christian Cabral, El Puma, not to mention Leonid Grachov, heavyweight from Albuquerque. He's rematching Manuel Eastman. The size disparity there. The grudge continues. Huge card for boxing to return to Albuquerque again at the Kiva Auditorium, thanks to Legacy Boxing Promotions. We're not done yet. That's 3 out of our 4 guests tonight. And still coming up here at the end of the show, we're going to be joined by Logan Paxson, APFC 21 victory, a first round knockout. We had Jimmy Dukes on to talk about a lot of APFC 21, and we got through all of Fight World 41. So before we are joined by Logan Paxton, I wanted to throw out a couple more thoughts and give you guys a little bit more about that APFC 21 card. Mark Hussey got cut open, overcomes the adversity, grinds to get his takedowns, and it was a very Anthony Hernandez-like performance. There were some big overhands, but he got into the wrestling and then was threatening on the chokes, transitioning to the back. A true wrestling mentality. He wants to be a striker, but at least for the night, with the reach disadvantage, getting on the inside was the right key. Great victory from Mark Hussey. Shout out earlier on the prelims because Andrew Alvara, we got to talk to him and have that up on the social media. His pre-fight interview, he gets the spectacular first round knockout. He lets the big left hand go. It was a little bit tentative with the kicking back and forth, but then when he saw the opportunity to unleash the big power, he did so. It's 1-0 for a guy that has been putting in a lot of hard work for many years. Logan Paxton was calling for an APFC title shot at APFC 18 when the promotion debuted here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Coming off of what he did at APFC 21, the first right hand he threw annihilated RJ Hoyt. It's hard not to agree. Is the phone calling from the UFC? Is the Contender Series ready? Because Logan Paxton looks like he is deserving the next call. And that is considering we had two champions crowned on this card. Also, let's first more than commend the incredible bravery, the boldness of Jess Martinez. It had been 6 years away from MMA, a promising MMA career with speed bumps of injuries, with these hurdles and obstacles put in his way. Finally returning to the cage. He's a featherweight due to a late injury, or, excuse me, not injury. The appropriate term that we were given was medical emergency that was suffered by Emmanuel Sanchez. Martinez jumps up 10 pounds. He was a amateur lightweight champion, but as a professional, had been competing at 145. First fight in 6 years, jumps back up 10 pounds to lightweight, and ends up taking on the challenge of James Pleasant. Pleasant is a massive 6'3" lightweight who has been on a tear. Martinez gets the takedown, gets the back. Are we serious that this upset come from behind Miracle Disney? Disney is about to write, to sell, and share this stuff kind of comeback. It's happening. And after the first round, Martin to have been exhausted. To the credit of Pleasant, he's able to adjust, stuff some takedowns, start to let his strikes go. Exclamation point on his combinations with the head kicks at the end, slapping Martinez around. Then made the adjustment with the elbows on the stuffing of the takedown, takes Martinez's back, the rear naked choke finish, a huge victory for James Pleasant. 7 now. I'm not sure if he gets the call to the UFC, if there may be a title defense in his future, but that was a massive victory. And for the record, the third title fight victory for James Pleasant as a mixed martial artist. He's got 3 pro belts hanging up. That was a huge one. In the co-main event, we saw Jalen Fuller add the first professional title belt to his resume and put in a lot of work with LFA. We saw him with the submission of the year, the omoplata, transitioning to the rear naked choke as a candidate for the APFC submission of the year. Well, on top of that now, once a striker, a Muay Thai professional, we're now looking at the submission artist. The gentleman is in Jalen Fuller. Mark Kolker, did not like the first exchange and combinations that they had, went to shoot in on the takedown, and was met by the high elbow guillotine, the ninja choke, and we get the submission. Your new APFC welterweight champion. And that led us up to just the destruction that we talked about earlier with Gable Steveson, the next great American heavyweight right there on display and coming to a Fight Pass city near you to accumulate more experience before we get that man in the octagon. We got a couple more minutes before we are joined by Logan Paxton. Before he gets here, I did want to also bring up this past weekend, BKB, Bare Knuckle Boxing, 48, Florida. It was the Four Kings event, Pembroke Pines, Florida. Gustavo Trujillo retains the heavyweight title. A couple of knockdowns of traditional boxing champion Lucas Brown, and the right hand for the scorcher for the knockout in the first round. 9 for 9 for the king of the Trigon, Gustavo Trujillo. And with that victory, as great and as pound for pound as LT Smash Nelson is, and Dave Mundell from BKFC, if you were going to have a BKFC, BKB crossover matchup, it would be Mundell versus Smash LT Nelson. I think I might have to reconsider that after what Gustavo Trujillo just did. 9 for 9. 9 first round knockout. Next week in Florida, Leonardo Perdomo, the heavyweight #1 contender for BKFC, he can make it 10 for 10. Gustavo just matched him. Those two Cuban hitmen against each other might be the most desirable crossover fight that bare knuckle could make. Now, as far as BKFC goes, we still know we're waiting to see when Perdomo gets the Ben Rothwell fight. That one is a must, a necessity in 2026 for us, the fans, to see. Dave Feldman has said that there are some massive announcements coming from BKFC. There was a huge one this week. They will be debuting in April in the land of Hawaii. So the continual expansion for the bare knuckle powerhouse is well underway. BKFC's Knucklemania, February 7th, going to be returning to Philadelphia once again this year. Matthew Semmelsberger, the UFC vet, will be debuting on that card. It is speculated that here in the next couple days, over the holiday weekend, we are hopefully going to get our announcements on the main and co-main event for that Knucklemania card, holding out hopes that Mike Perry is going to be fighting a familiar bare knuckle veteran. We've seen him beat a lot of great MMA fighters, but I want to see Mike Perry take on another name from BKFC. Wow, I got all the way to BKFC when I meant to be talking about BKB, but that was just how captivating talking about the heavyweight division is because of Leonardo Perdomo, who will be taking on Corey Willis. Perdomo versus Gustavo Trujillo would be incredible, though. But Gustavo Trujillo, unquestionably the king of the Trigon, the most devastating puncher in that company. Another guy, though, making a huge case for a crown being put on his head is Cub Hawkins. A knockout of Barry Jones, jumping in on short notice, replacing Smash LT Nelson. Smash was about to conquer a third division, the 2-division champion. Well, it's not 2 titles at one time, but there now are 2 titles on the wall for Cub Hawkins, adding to his cruiserweight title. Now the BKB light heavyweight champion, your Police Gazette Diamond Belt winner. Great little left hand, the angles that he's able to create. And this is a man that is just consistently now dropping down in weight. He had at one point said that his sights were set on Smash LT Nelson. It now looks like he changed that trajectory with a really brilliant call out of a man who was ringside, commentator Paulie Malignaggi. Malignaggi had still been fighting. He was just in the main event of the Leeds event, going against and defeating Tyler Goodjohn. So with that kind of implications, Hawkins says he is game to make the weight cut. Because yes, he just won a title, the light heavyweight title at 174 pounds and says he's ready to go down to 154 to take on the former professional gloved boxing world champion, Paulie Malignaggi. The card was 4 kings. In all, we had 4 title fights for the card. Jordan Fuentes and Yuli Fernandez is a no contest. The title remains vacant due to a very controversial punch to the back of the head. And Jared Grant versus John Bernard, also a no contest with a eye poke. Those are both unfortunate. There were some gems on the card also, but you really got to shout it out for Cub Hawkins, Gustavo Trujillo, 2 stars in the making from bare knuckle boxing. And while we're sitting here waiting for Logan Paxton to join us, there's a couple other topics that I wanted to touch on, a few news and notes as we move past this weekend. We will return to last weekend as soon as Logan is able to join us. Hope that he's remembered about the interview. Gonna just double check right now. Believe he did see the message, hoping he'll jump on here in a couple moments, but transition my mind from the bare knuckle back to the MMA. It is my fight show. We will jump around here. Go to cageminds.com because we're covering a whole lot there. And all week across the social media, we will be putting up post-fight interviews from the events I was at this weekend from FightWorld 41 and APFC 21. Truly appreciate all the fighters after their contests, their battles, their wars, giving me a couple moments. We still got one more guest on tap tonight, Logan Paxton, hopefully joining us here soon. PFL with some big news. Our friends at Borroka with some huge news. So yeah. Let's take a look at that Borroka thing that I had from earlier. Borroka, the company that went viral with the Juan Archuleta jumping knee knockout. We have some massive news for them. They have actually been acquired by Extreme One Entertainment. Extreme One is the parent company of XFC. If you remember, guys, back to the heyday a decade ago, before UFC Fight Pass, there was Access TV Friday Night Fights. You had Legacy. They came out here to Albuquerque, New Mexico. We had RFA. They had been out here a couple times. You had XFC. That's where they come back into play. And you also had MFC, the Canadian promotion. Well, right now, Extreme One adds Borroka, Las Vegas-based promotion that has had 4 events and some viral moments at each one. The deal is this more accelerates the XFC, the Extreme One Entertainment's vision and mission to build a premier development league for emerging MMA talent. It is expected that the addition of Borroka to drive its live event volume, increase its revenue potential. We're going to see now the rosters be integrated between each other. So the XFC and Borroka rosters, now you have that access to more talent. This is to hopefully, I believe for them, put them in contention with the promotions that you're seeing now on the level of the LFA, Fury FC, CFFC here in America. Big news for Borroka to join the umbrella that is Extreme One Entertainment with XFC also involved, and you'll be able to watch their cards on BN Sports. BN Sports was where you were previously able to watch BYB before they became BKB and then went over to Vice TV as Vice TV doing more and more in the world of combat sports, which leads me over to the PFL. The PFL had recently made an announcement that PFL MENA and PFL Africa events were going to be available to its audience through Vice TV. Now, this left me with a couple curiosities because there was supposed to be more than just those two international leagues. What happened to PFL Europe? PFL Pacific with Asia and Australia, that was also supposed to be launched. What happened to those entities? They're not being mentioned in this announcement of the Vice TV deal with the international leagues. That's because at least PFL Europe appears to have been dissolved, and now those dates will be integrated into the PFL global season. The markets are on fire when the PFL goes to Lyon, to Paris, you go to London. I think that that's the right deal from the PFL to integrate in the European subsidiary that they had of their league, start to use those fighters that they've had for a couple seasons and bring them to the global brand. So that clears up what the PFL was doing, because we did get the announcement of a couple dates coming up. The PFL year will start off in February in Dubai at the Coca-Cola Arena with Usman Nurmagomedov defending the PFL lightweight title against Alfie Davis, the 2025 PFL Global Tournament winner, the one and only global tournament that they will end up having. He won the lightweight division, 3 stunning upsets in a row from a very spectacular striker who I think had some deficiencies in the grappling, overcame them, and performed over expectations, really had a flair for the dramatic. That is going to be your main event. The co-main event is going to see the final Bellator welterweight champion, Ramazan Kurmagomedov, 13-0, battling for the very first inaugural PFL welterweight champion against the 20-0-1 Shamil Musayev, the 2024 PFL global season winner when they used to have the points format. These are two incredible Russians. I'd say that Kurmagomedov is more of the tenacious wrestler. You're going to see more dynamic striking coming out of Musayev. The card is also going to get one of the more prominent faces of the company. Dakota Ditcheva will battle former Bellator title challenger Denise Kuholt. Don't know yet if that's going to be for the title. I wonder if we're going to have to wait till Liz Carmouche is ready. Liz Carmouche, Dakota Ditcheva, I could see possibly later this year for that inaugural women's flyweight title. Oh no, man down on the lighting. 1 second for the people that aren't hearing this later. If you're watching this part of the video, I apologize that my light just fell over on us. Continuing with the news that I had about the PFL, in March, the company will be in Madrid, Spain, which I think gives them a bit of a coup. It really means nothing in the grand scheme of things, but to be able to get to a place like Spain before the UFC, I think they feel that they can be proud of that. I'm not sure who's going to be featured on that card with names like Ilia Topuria, Alexander Topuria, Joel Alvarez. The most prominent Spanish fighters that I know in MMA currently reside in the UFC, but the PFL has beat the UFC to hosting an event there. They will follow up March in the Steel City of Pittsburgh, and they'll be in the Windy City of Chicago in April. So the PFL, with a bunch of movement going on and quite a few announcements, I think go in a positive direction. I love the tournament. The old Bellator toughest tournament in the planet was one of my favorite things that really adored me to that brand, but it obviously is not a mainstream builder to commercial success, to build stardom. The PFL went down the season slope for as many years as they could. PFL tried. I commend them for that. They are now turning the corner, turning the page, and are going to become more of a traditional fight promotion. They had taken the matchmaker out of the equation and just wanted to lead to the best fighting the best. Somehow that tournament format did not equate to getting people enthusiastic about the fight. We're going to match your direction now, and the PFL has an increased number of global and local to the states events that are coming up. I believe 26 and 2026 with 16 of them happening in the states, 10 out of the states. That tells me that the PFL Europe dates and the PFL Global season dates have now basically merged into one calendar. And again, MENA and Africa that are building up their pipelines and building up the talent in those two regions, you'll be able to watch that action on Vice TV. And it's a pivotal year for the PFL, to reiterate, because this is the last year that the global brand has the ESPN contract. ESPN 1 year away from being fully out of the MMA game, as we're down to the last two UFC events of the calendar year. Polish promotion KSW, one of the two biggest promotions in Europe. It runs between Octagon, that operates out of Prague, Czech Republic, and KSW, that operates out of Poland. On the KSW side, they have made an interesting announcement for today's MMA game. Their next event, they will no longer be taking a percentage or portion of a fighter's purse for missing weight. They will instead be deducting a point. So imagine you miss weight and you walk into the cage knowing you've already lost a point. Your best hope is that you can get a 9-9 first round. It'll be interesting to see if this discourages athletes from missing weight, or if it's more problematic, because now if you really don't want to cut that weight, you want to have more energy, you're just a little more aggressive towards the finish to negate the fact that you're down a point. Or maybe you feel that the extra energy maintained or saved in the gas tank from not cutting weight could be utilized in later rounds, and thus you could get the finish. And again, if you're not losing the money, does this stop the problem, or does this intensify the problem? But 1 point deductions if this weight in KSW starting in December. I'm going to be a really interested observer to see how that affects the landscape of their weigh-ins going forward, and how the fights play out with people that do miss weight. Are they even more nonchalant about the fact, or does it become a bigger issue? Checking right back in, we have still been efforting to the Wolverine Logan Pax. It was a disgusting right hand, the first one he threw. Opponent RJ Hoyt at APFC 21. Incredible. Hoping he'll be ready tonight. Appreciate Jimmy Dukes for stopping by. Appreciate Austin Lewis. You guys can see the legacy continues. December 12th, Kiva Auditorium. Local boxing continues. That was kind of ominous. I hit the wrong button. But yes, local boxing back here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I've been told that Pat Holmes and Holmes Boxing, the announcement that we had of Mike Adams 2.0. Yes, to that show, ESPN Radio Albuquerque 1017 The Team. Every Saturday morning, you can hear us. Find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. On that platform, Holmes Promotions had announced Angelo Leo, February 24th, returning here to Albuquerque, Tingley Coliseum, defending his world title. I can tell you guys that with the Mario Barrios fight being announced for the same date that Sampson and Holmes Boxing, I believe, partnered with Donald Sanchez Promotions, they have all determined to postpone that fight to a later date. So we have to wait a little bit longer for the return to Leo to the 505. I believe Holmes Promotion, though, will be having an announcement here soon. Hearing rumblings that there may be some smaller, almost, if you would look at it from a UFC perspective, we're talking about some fight night events, possibly in February and March, and then a big event at Tingley. That would be your numbered or premium live event. That one on tap for April. So a little bit of postponement with our World Championship boxing here, but the boxing scene looking to be active in a big way once again in 2026. Again, December 12th, that starts. Quentin DeLeon, Austin Lewis. Thinking that one could be a show stealer, everyone. There's animosity. Don't let them fool you, being cordial as they've each been on this platform the last 2 weeks. I think they're going to throw down like two cats in a garbage can, just getting after it. Ferociousness. There's the familiarity. There's the backstory of this fight. Should have happened nearly 7 years ago. I think that one's going to bring the ruckus, as Coach Chris Luttrell used to also say. This past weekend was a huge weekend of fights. I personally was live for two wild events. That means we saw a 21 fight card, a 14 fight card, 35 fights, not to mention the UFC Qatar event. It was an incredible weekend. Been still trying to effort Logan Paxton. We're hoping maybe he'll be able to join us here for the last couple minutes. Not sure if we're going to get through that one. If we can't make the interview happen this week, I'll try to get a hold of him and see if we're able to get him back on next week. Local fight fans, I do know that Chris Brown, CFFC middleweight champion, he's going to be defending his title December 20th. You guys got to look forward to that one on UFC Fight Pass. And I do want to get back real quick before we get out of here over to the UFC Qatar event, because I feel like there was a couple things, a couple headlines that were pivotal, but flew under the radar. And this is what I get for having expected that we'd be at a different segment at this point in the show. MMA After Hours is up. Go over to cageminds.com. I do that every week with Mr. Michael Carlisle. We talk about what's next for Arman Saryukian. Incredible performance against Dan Hooker. Does it earn him a lightweight title fight? Ian Gary, he gets by Bilal Muhammad. He adds a former world champion to his resume. Former world title contender Volkan Oezdemir. No time he wasted that exactly. And Koji Haraguchi, the former best in Ryzen, will he be taking on his teammate Alexandre Pantoja? We talked about that all on MMA After Hours. You find that at MMA After Hours across all your podcast platforms. And we also have an X account for that show. Tomorrow, be talking to Michael Carlisle for Pro Wrestling After Hours. We will be recapping what might have been the best pay-per-view of the year in the pro wrestling world, talking about AEW Full Gear. And this Saturday, there's turkey. On Thursday, there's a lot of football. Saturday, pro wrestling. It's Survivor Series War Games. We have a little bit of a preview about the Bloodline against the Bloodline against the Bloodline. If you know pro wrestling, you understand what I'm talking about. The last Survivor Series for John Cena. It all goes down in San Diego. December 27th, Duke City Championship Wrestlings. Yes, our local friends will be back at the El Rey Theater here in downtown Albuquerque one more time before the year ends. That UFC Qatar event, as I said, there was a couple fights that flew under the radar that I really wanted to touch on that I did not get to touch on MMA After Hours. Luke Riley, held down for the first round, but not deterred, puts the left hook beautifully across the chin and turns Bogdangrad all the way around, maintains the unbeaten record, is able to overcome the adversity in a pinpoint accurate shot. Paddy Pimblett's teammate looks like he might have some magic. Another Scouser who doesn't get knocked out. Nicholas Dalby, he is another litmus test. That's what I refer to Neil Magny as. And Nicholas Dalby is getting to be this enigma of the division. He comes at you aggressively. He'll be looking for takedowns and bunches, overloading you with punches, to spamming your brain with as many offensive concepts as you can't handle. He hands a huge loss to Sagid Ismagayov, a Islam Makhachev training partner who came in with a lot of hype to get a split decision in Qatar, in the UAE area. It's a massive win for Nicholas Dalby to overcome that one. Alexandre Topuria, he has the look, he has the feel, he kind of has the wiggle in the shoulders, the same as his brother. I don't know if he's exactly as good, but to overcome Begzat Almakhan, 15 fights going in for Almakhan, only the 8th fight for Topuria. We've seen that his style can functionally perform at the highest levels. There's a lot of crossing the feet and some tendencies that I don't like that Topuria has, but at this stage, it's hard to not say that we might be seeing one of the more dynamic brother combinations that's passed through the UFC in quite a while. So got to keep an eye on Topuria. And then how can we not talk about Ishmael Nordiev, the right overhand that absolutely obliterated Ryan Loder. That was a hell of a knockout. Nordiev, it's taken a while for him to round out his game. It's his second time through the UFC, and it really feels like now he's put it all together. So those were just a couple of the names that I saw on the prelims that I felt like were flying under the radar. A crazy weekend for combat sports. A whole bunch of wicked knockouts, great fights. Abel Stevenson, the next big thing, he was a Minnesota Golden Gopher. He's had that Brock Lesnar interaction. Is it too audacious to take the nickname and to transfer it? Is he the next big thing? Gable Stevenson? I'm guessing by next month, we're going to see fight number 4. And there hasn't been a prospect like this in quite some time. The words can't miss are very hard to equivocate, but I think there were a lot of lessons learned from Bo Nickel, from how he was almost rushed a little bit too much. I think that there were lessons learned from Bo Nickel after what happened to Sage Northcutt. But I think there's still a lot of lessons to be learned in MMA about how a promoter ideally wants to develop a blue chip athlete, a 5-star recruit, into a prized must-see top fighter. Boxing, they've kind of have a formula on how they're spitting these guys out. And that formulaic process is what has almost made the sport a little bit dull until you get to the upper echelons, because everyone's trying to protect the record. So I'm not saying we need to protect the record, but I'm saying that Gable Stevenson may, my thought process was always him getting to the UFC in time to fight on the fight on the White House card in June. That's still a very likely possibility. I think that the seasoning is going to be a big concept. Being able to get 6, 7, 8 fights under Gable Stevenson's belt before he gets the UFC. At the bottom of the top 15, if you look at some of the guys that have got in, you could see how his athleticism would be enough to just overcome those challenges immediately. The next big thing, Gable Stevenson, this is a heavyweight to get excited about. The heavyweight division, my mantra has been, we need more heavyweights. Josh Hogan is exciting. Here comes Gable Stevenson. The resurgence of the heavyweight from America with the American wrestling roots is upon us, and I don't want you to be caught by surprise. I want you to enjoy this ride. My Fight Show, every Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Mountain. That's 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern. I appreciate every like, every share, every view. And we're not just talking about this show, but that's across Cage Minds, MMA After Hours, Pro Wrestling After Hours, Mike Adams 2.0, Cage Minds Live. That tentatively, I've got a plan for us to be back live. Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua. I can't believe I'm seeing it. Don't hold me to it, but tentative plan in the works. I do believe that after you guys and myself, we all enjoy a wonderful, safe, and happy Thanksgiving, that shortly after we are here live next week, that I will then be on my way to Las Vegas for UFC 323. So we'll have a whole lot to come next week. I'm going to work on efforting Logan Paxton, see if there was some conflict on timing, see if we can get one of the budding stars of the Southwest fight scene knocking on the door to get into the UFC, the Colorado Wolverine Killer. This guy, seen him twice now, and I really believe he's going to have a bright future in the UFC. Hopefully, we'll be able to get him here next week on my fight show. The social media, cageminds.com, Cage Minds Combat Sports News, across Facebook and YouTube where you guys are watching this. Cage Minds Combat Sports News. It's Cage Minds _CSN, excuse me, on Instagram, TikTok, X, Threads. It was a wonderful fight weekend. Let's all have a safe, happy, wonderful Thanksgiving. Shout out to Franklin Romero for all the images that are up on the Facebook page from FightWorld 41. We got more post-fight interviews from FightWorld 41 and from APFC 21 going on all week. I'm Micah Frankel. This is my fight show, and y'all have a good night.